You sit on the edge of the bed with one sock on and one sock in your hand. The room is quiet. Morning light has already reached the wall. Your phone has been ringing, buzzing, reminding, and asking things of you since before your feet touched the floor. There is an email from work marked urgent. A message from your sister that begins with, "Do you have a minute?" A reminder about an overdue bill. A news alert you did not ask for. A photograph of someone smiling on a beach while you are trying to remember the last time you woke without feeling behind. Nothing terrible is happening in this exact moment, and yet you feel as though you have been carrying something heavy for years. You are not only tired from work, you are tired of decisions, tired of being available, tired of trying to improve, tired of explaining yourself, tired of hoping, tired of pretending the weekend will repair what the week keeps taking. Sometimes the exhaustion becomes so complete that even things you once loved begin to feel like appointments. A friend calls and you watch the phone ring. A child asks you to look at something, and part of you wants to disappear into another room. Someone says you should get some rest, and the sentence almost makes you angry. Because you have rested. You have slept 8 hours and woken tired. You have taken a day off and spent the whole day worrying about what you were not doing. You have sat on the couch while your mind continued working in every room of your life. So here is the difficult question. What if you are not tired because you have done too much? What if you are tired because somewhere inside you, nothing is ever allowed to stop? You are listening to Still Mind Temple, a quiet place for the mind to rest. In the time we share, you may begin to recognize the difference between physical tiredness and the deeper exhaustion created by a mind that never closes its doors. You may understand why thinking harder does not always bring relief, why being needed can become a form of captivity, and why the harsh voice you use to push yourself forward may be consuming more energy than the life you are trying to manage. You will also learn a practical way to reduce the inner strain without abandoning your responsibilities, without becoming indifferent, and without demanding that you suddenly feel inspired. Because sometimes healing does not begin with motivation. Sometimes it begins when you stop requiring yourself to want anything for a while. Before we go further, try a small experiment. For the next 30 seconds, do nothing about your phone. Do not turn it off. Do not check it. Simply notice your relationship to it. Perhaps it is beside you, in your hand, or somewhere across the room. Watch for the smallest movement in the body. The eyes may glance toward it. The fingers may prepare to reach. The mind may ask whether someone has written. A thought may appear. I should check now so I can relax afterward. Do not obey the thought yet. Just notice it. Then notice what comes next. Maybe the mind creates a reason. There could be something important. Someone may need me. I do not want to fall behind. This will only take a second. Nothing has happened. No alarm has sounded, but attention has already been recruited. That is the mechanism we are looking at. Exhaustion is not created only by the tasks you complete. It is also created by all the tasks the mind keeps mentally open. Imagine a house at night where every light has been left on. The kitchen is empty, but the overhead light is burning. The garage is empty, but the fluorescent tubes are humming. The bathroom light is on. The hallway light is on. A lamp glows in a guest room no one has entered for months. The television is playing in one room. A radio is speaking in another. A computer screen is awake on a desk, waiting for someone who has gone to bed. The house is not being used. It is being consumed. This is how many minds live. Every unfinished conversation keeps a light on. Every unanswered message. every fear about the future, every attempt to understand why someone changed, every promise you made when you were less tired, every person whose opinion you are still managing, every version of yourself you believe you must become. By midnight, the body may be in bed, but the whole inner house is lit. No wonder sleep does not feel like rest. A man named David learned this without knowing he was learning it. He was 46 and worked as an operations manager for a distribution company outside Dallas. His days were full of small emergencies. A truck was late. A client was unhappy. An employee called in sick. A supervisor wanted revised numbers before lunch. David was good at solving problems. This became the problem. At 9:38 one evening, while he was brushing his teeth, his phone vibrated on the bathroom counter. The message was from his boss. "Can you explain the discrepancy in today's report?" That was all. The trigger was a short sentence. The sensation came first. A tightening below the ribs. A sudden alertness. The toothbrush stopped moving. Then came the thought, something is wrong. The thought became a story. Maybe I missed something important. If the numbers are wrong, senior management will see it. They already think I am not ready for the next position. I should check now. If I wait until morning, it will look careless. The story created a reaction. David opened the report. The reaction became an hour of checking spreadsheets. The hour became a habit. Every uncertainty was answered with more thinking. The habit became an identity. I am the person who stays ahead of problems. His first obstacle was overthinking. Overthinking often looks like responsibility from the outside. The person appears careful, intelligent, and prepared. They consider consequences. They notice details. They think before acting. But there is a point where thought stops serving life and begins consuming it. Useful thought moves toward a decision. Overthinking moves toward more thought. Useful thought asks, what is the next action? Overthinking asks, what if there is something I have not considered? Useful thought completes itself. Overthinking keeps the file open. David found the discrepancy within 5 minutes. A number had been entered twice. He corrected it. The problem was solved. But his body did not understand that the work was finished. He continued checking the rest of the report. Then the report from the day before. Then an email thread from the previous week. By the time he returned to bed, his wife was asleep. David lay in the dark, tired but alert, feeling as though he had narrowly prevented a disaster. The mind called this success. The nervous system learned a different lesson. When fear appears, stay awake. This is how karma operates in ordinary life. Karma is often misunderstood as punishment, destiny, or a hidden force deciding who deserves good fortune. But karma can be understood much more simply. Intention, repetition, words, actions, and habits create direction. Every time you respond to uncertainty in the same way, that response becomes easier to repeat. The mind does not only solve the problem in front of it, it trains itself for the next problem. David did not choose the workplace culture that rewarded constant availability. He did not choose the childhood home where mistakes led to shouting and silence. He did not choose the first lessons that taught his body to associate vigilance with safety. Responsibility does not mean blaming him for how those lessons were formed. Responsibility means recognizing that he now participates in what happens next. Each time he checked the phone in bed, the path became clearer. Each time he paused, breathed, and waited until morning, another path received a footprint. Both actions shaped the future, not the future of the company, the future of his mind. You can test this yourself. Think of the last problem you worried about repeatedly. Ask whether the repeated thinking produced repeated action. Perhaps one phone call was needed, one appointment, one honest conversation, one document, one boundary. After that, what did the next 2 hours of thought accomplish? The mind may say it was preparing, but preparation usually creates a step. Overthinking creates exhaustion and calls the exhaustion evidence that the problem is serious. This is the first reversal. You may not be tired from solving your life. You may be tired from repeatedly visiting problems that are not asking for action right now. In Buddhist teaching, suffering is sometimes described as though it means every moment of life is miserable. That is not the point. Suffering deepens when the mind cannot allow experience to be incomplete, uncertain, or changing. A thought appears, and the mind must finish it. A relationship changes, and the mind must explain it. A future remains unknown, and the mind must fill the space with prediction. The problem is not only that life contains uncertainty. The problem is that the mind treats uncertainty as an emergency. One old Zen story, told in several forms, speaks of a novice who was given responsibility for the lamps in a mountain temple. Each evening, he walked through the halls and lit them. The meditation room, the kitchen, the library, the small room near the gate, the room where travelers sometimes slept. He took the work seriously. Over time, he began lighting lamps in rooms no one used. He lit the storage room in case someone needed a bowl. He lit the old teacher's room, though the teacher had been gone for years. He lit the empty corridor behind the kitchen because darkness there made him uneasy. Eventually, he began waking at night to check whether any lamp had gone out. One morning, the teacher found him asleep beside an empty oil jar. "You have cared for the lamps," the teacher said. The novice apologized. "I have failed." Some went out. The teacher walked with him through the temple. In each empty room, the teacher extinguished the flame. The novice became frightened. "What if someone enters?" The teacher replied, "Then we will light the lamp they need." The story does not ask you to become careless. It asks whether you are using life now or illuminating every possible need in advance. David began a small practice. At the end of each workday, he wrote down 3 things. What had been completed? What required action tomorrow? What his mind was continuing to hold without any useful action available? He called the third category lights in empty rooms. At first, the list was long. The client may complain again. My boss may think I am slow. Someone could notice the mistake. The team might fall behind next month. He did not try to prove these fears wrong. He wrote beside each one, "No action tonight." Then he closed the notebook. The first evening, the mind reopened every room. The second evening it did the same. But each night, David practiced returning to the chair, the dinner, the sound of his wife speaking. Over time, he became able to put the day down before the day had explained everything. This was not laziness. It was a new relationship with incompleteness. There is another form of exhaustion that looks less like thinking and more like goodness. A woman named Maria lived in a small apartment in Chicago and worked as a dental assistant. She had 2 adult children, an aging father, a close friend going through a divorce, and a church community that knew she rarely refused a request. Maria was the person people called. Her daughter needed someone to pick up the grandchildren. Her father needed groceries. Her friend needed to talk. A neighbor needed help filling out an insurance form. A cousin needed money until payday. Maria answered. Sometimes she answered while sitting in the parking lot outside her own apartment, because she did not have enough energy to climb the stairs. One Saturday morning, she woke with a headache and planned to remain in bed. At 8:12, her daughter called. "Mom, I hate to ask, but can you take the kids today?" The trigger was the request. The sensation was a drop in the stomach. The thought came quickly. She needs me. Then the story. If I say no, she will struggle. A good mother helps. She already has so much on her plate. I can rest another day. People have always been able to count on me. The reaction was yes. The repeated yes became a habit. The habit became an identity. I am valuable because I am available. Maria's obstacle was people-pleasing. People-pleasing is often mistaken for kindness. But kindness contains choice. People-pleasing is driven by fear. Fear of disappointment. Fear of conflict. Fear of being seen as selfish. Fear that love will weaken if usefulness stops. From the outside, the actions may look identical. Both people bring food. Both answer the call. Both offer help. The difference is what happens inside. Kindness says, I choose to give. People-pleasing says, I am not allowed to refuse. Kindness can rest afterward. People-pleasing often becomes resentful. That Saturday, Maria watched the grandchildren while her daughter worked. The children were energetic. They wanted snacks, cartoons, games, and attention. Maria loved them. She was also depleted. When the younger child spilled juice on the rug, Maria raised her voice. The child froze. Maria immediately felt guilty. Then she became overly sweet, allowed more screen time than usual, and promised ice cream. This is how unspoken limits create confusing relationships. The body says no. The mouth says yes. Resentment appears. Guilt follows. Then more giving is used to repair the resentment. The cycle begins again. People often believe boundaries will make them less loving. But a boundary can protect love from becoming contaminated by exhaustion. A calm no may be kinder than a resentful yes. Maria had learned early that care meant sacrifice. Her mother had cooked while sick, worked through grief, and refused help even when her hands shook. The women in her family were praised for endurance. No one asked what endurance was costing them. At a family meal, Maria's father once said, "Your mother never complained." He meant it as admiration. Maria heard it as instruction. The next week, her daughter called again. Maria felt the old contraction in the body. Before answering, she took 3 breaths. The first breath noticed the headache. The second noticed the fear of disappointing her daughter. The third remembered that love did not require self-erasure. She said, "I cannot take the kids today. I can help tomorrow afternoon." There was a pause. Her daughter sounded frustrated. Maria's body reacted as though a door had slammed. But the conversation did not become a disaster. Her daughter found another arrangement. Maria remained home. For the first hour, she did not rest. She replayed the call and imagined being judged. Then she noticed what she was doing. She was physically alone in the apartment, but her daughter's possible disappointment had every light on in the house. Maria sat on the couch. She placed both feet on the floor. She said, "Disappointment is not danger." This became another small practice. Not every uncomfortable feeling needs to be repaired. Sometimes another person's disappointment is simply the cost of your honesty. This is where attachment appears. Attachment is often misunderstood as loving too much. But attachment is the demand that a person, role, or outcome remain a certain way so that you can feel secure. Maria was attached to being needed. Without that role, she did not know whether she would still matter. There is a deeper question underneath. Who are you when no one is asking anything from you? Some people cannot answer because their identity was built entirely around response. The good employee, the reliable parent, the strong sibling, the peaceful spouse, the friend who always listens. These roles may be beautiful, but when you cannot step out of them, even briefly, they become rooms where the light is never allowed to go off. You may love your family and still need silence. You may care about your work and still need an evening in which no one can reach you. You may be compassionate and still allow someone to solve a problem without you. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is releasing the belief that your constant effort is the only thing preventing life from falling apart. Maria's change did not make everyone happy. Her sister called her distant. Her daughter sometimes complained. Her father continued praising the old way. But Maria became more trustworthy. When she said yes, she meant yes. When she said she would call, she called. When she needed rest, she stopped punishing other people for failing to guess. Some of the most important wealth in life will never appear in a bank account. A trustworthy heart is one of them. A trustworthy heart is not endlessly available. It is honest about capacity. It does not promise what the body cannot give. It does not use kindness to purchase approval. It can listen without preparing a defense. It can set a limit without hatred. It can forgive without returning to a harmful place. It can remain present at a family meal instead of answering every vibration from the phone. The third form of exhaustion is often the deepest because it follows you even into solitude. A man named Henry retired at 67 after 4 decades as a high school teacher. People assumed he would enjoy the freedom. No alarm, no commute, no papers to grade. His children were grown. His mortgage was paid. He had enough savings to live carefully. But within 3 months, Henry felt more tired than before. He woke early and stayed in bed. He watched television without following the program. He walked into the kitchen and forgot why he was there. He stopped calling friends because he had nothing new to report. One afternoon, his wife found him sitting at the table with an unopened envelope from the retirement office. She asked, "Are you all right?" Henry said, "I don't know what is wrong with me." The trigger was not a crisis. It was an empty day. The sensation was heaviness. The thought was, I should be enjoying this. The story became, something is wrong with me. I spent years waiting for retirement, and now I am wasting it. Other people would be grateful. I have no excuse to feel this way. The reaction was self-criticism. The criticism drained what little energy he had. The lack of energy became more evidence. The evidence became habit. The habit became identity. I am becoming useless. Henry's obstacle was self-judgment. Self-judgment promises energy through pressure. It says, get up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have nothing to complain about. You should be grateful. But shame is an expensive fuel. It may move the body for a short distance. Then it leaves the system more depleted than before. A person who is tired and attacked from within is carrying 2 burdens. The original exhaustion, and the demand not to be exhausted. Henry had spent most of his life under structure. Bell schedules, class periods, semesters, meetings, students waiting, colleagues needing answers. His nervous system had learned to produce energy in response to obligation. When obligation disappeared, he did not immediately discover peace. He discovered the absence of the structure that had told him who he was. This is why rest can initially feel frightening. When every light is turned off, you may notice the emptiness of rooms you avoided entering. Grief, loneliness, aging, Regret. The question of what your life means when no one is measuring your productivity. Sometimes people say they are tired of everything when they are actually grieving the self they used to be. The body that recovered faster. The children who once needed them. The marriage before silence entered. The job before burnout. The parent before illness. The future before it became smaller. Self-judgment prevents this grief from being felt honestly. It says you should be moving forward, but grief does not move in a straight line. It returns through ordinary objects. An empty chair, a coat in the closet, a recipe written in someone's handwriting, a voicemail saved for years, a quiet house after the children have left. The mind tries to solve grief because it does not know how to accompany it. But grief is not always asking for a solution. Sometimes it is asking to be witnessed without being hurried. Henry's wife did something simple. She did not tell him to be positive. She did not suggest a hobby. She sat at the table and said, "You miss being needed." Henry looked away. Then he began to cry. Not dramatically, just quietly, with both hands resting on the unopened envelope. That sentence opened a room he had kept lit, but never entered. He did not only miss teaching. He missed the version of himself who knew where to go every morning. He missed students calling his name in the hallway. He missed being expected. The tiredness was not proof that he had become lazy. It was grief without language. In Buddhist teaching, mindfulness is sometimes misunderstood as staying calm or having no negative thoughts. Mindfulness is simpler. It is knowing what is happening while it is happening. Tiredness is here. Grief is here. The mind is judging. The body wants to lie down. Fear is creating a future. Nothing needs to be improved in order to be known. When Henry felt heaviness, he began saying, "This is heaviness." Not, "I am useless." Not, "My life is over." A sensation was allowed to remain a sensation before it became an identity. This is a quiet but important freedom. You are not every state that passes through you. Tiredness is an experience. It is not your name. For reflection, consider the sentence you use when you are depleted. I am lazy. I am weak. I am falling behind. I am wasting my life. No one wants me around. Now remove the words "I am." Replace them with "the mind is saying." The mind is saying I am lazy. The mind is saying I am falling behind. The mind is saying I am no longer useful. Notice the small distance this creates. You have not denied the thought. You have stopped making it your identity. A guide may point toward the door, but you must still take the step. The step is often ordinary. You do not need to repair your whole life tonight. Begin with 60 seconds. Sit where you are. Let the hands rest. Feel the weight of the body against the chair. Notice 3 sensations without explaining them. Pressure, warmth, tightness. Then notice 1 thought. Name it softly. Planning, remembering, judging, fearing. Do not argue with it. Return to the body. This practice reveals that thoughts can be seen without being obeyed. When exhaustion is mixed with fear, write the fear down in 1 clear sentence. I am afraid I will not be able to keep up. I am afraid people will stop needing me. I am afraid this tiredness means something is wrong. I am afraid I have wasted too much time. Draw a line beneath it. On one side, write what can be done. Call the doctor. Speak to a therapist. Ask for help. Cancel 1 obligation. Review the budget. Take the medication as prescribed. Set a boundary. Sleep. Finish 1 necessary task. On the other side, write what the mind is only imagining. Every future rejection. Every judgment other people might be making. every disaster that has not happened, every moral meaning attached to your tiredness. Choose one action from the first side, then allow the second side to remain unanswered tonight. Spiritual practice does not replace therapy, medical care, legal protection, healthy boundaries, or practical action. If tiredness is persistent, severe, or accompanied by significant changes in sleep, appetite, mood, concentration, breathing, pain, or the desire to remain alive, seek professional care. A tired mind may need compassion, and a tired body may need treatment. Wisdom includes knowing when help is necessary. Meditation can support this work, but it should not become another test you must pass. Sit in a chair, on the edge of your bed, or on a cushion. Let the spine rise naturally without becoming rigid. Place the feet on the floor if you are in a chair. Rest the hands where they do not need to hold anything. Close the eyes if that feels safe, or lower the gaze. Choose one object of attention, the sensation of breathing at the nostrils, the rise and fall of the chest, the weight of the body. Do not force calm. Let the body breathe. The mind will wander. A task appears. A memory enters. A judgment says you are doing this badly. Name what happened. Thinking, planning, judging. Then return to one breath. The return is the practice, not perfect stillness, not spiritual achievement. Return. Begin with 10 minutes. Continue most days if possible. On some days, 10 minutes will feel peaceful. On others, it will reveal how tired you are. Both sessions are useful. You are training the mind to turn off one empty room at a time. You may also create an evening closing ritual. Not a complicated routine. A clear ending. Write down what remains unfinished. Choose what belongs to tomorrow. Place the phone outside the bedroom or beyond arm's reach. Take 3 breaths before turning off the light. Say, nothing more will be solved tonight. The mind may disagree. Let it disagree. You do not need its permission to rest. Over time, transformation becomes visible in behavior. You notice a sharp reply rising, but you wait before speaking. You stop trying to win every argument because being understood no longer feels like an emergency. You say no without producing a 5-minute explanation. You rest before collapse. You see a thought without immediately following it. You listen to your partner without mentally leaving the room to solve tomorrow. You allow an aging parent to repeat a story without rushing the ending. You put the day down when night comes. These changes may not feel dramatic, but they show that awareness is becoming stronger than habit. Karma is not only the path created by old reactions, it is also the path created by new ones. One pause, one honest no, one evening without reopening work, one moment of self-kindness when shame expected obedience. Each action leaves a tendency. The house does not become dark all at once. One switch is turned off, then another. Perhaps you fear that if you stop pushing, everything will collapse. This is the illusion of control. It says your tension is holding the world together, but tension is not the same as care. You can take responsibility without remaining internally alarmed. You can love someone without solving every feeling they have. You can prepare without rehearsing disaster. You can be a good person without being endlessly accessible. You can value your life even when you are not producing proof of value. Peace does not begin when life becomes perfect. Peace begins when we learn to meet life with awareness. This peace may not feel like joy. At first, it may feel like permission. Permission to leave one message unanswered. Permission to eat without watching a screen. Permission to admit that you do not know what comes next. Permission to sit beside an empty chair and miss someone. Permission to be tired without turning tiredness into a character flaw. One morning, David's boss sent another late message. David saw it. His body reacted. He took 3 breaths. He read the message once. It was not urgent. He placed the phone face down and returned to the kitchen, where his wife was telling him about a conversation with their daughter. He listened. The problem waited until morning. The company survived. More importantly, his marriage received the attention that work had been borrowing. Maria still helped her family, but she began asking, "Do I have the capacity to do this without becoming resentful?" Sometimes the answer was yes. Sometimes it was no. Her love became less dramatic and more reliable. Henry began walking to a coffee shop twice a week. He did not become a new man overnight. Some mornings he still felt empty, but he learned the name of the person behind the counter. He began helping one afternoon a week at a community reading program. The work mattered, but he also practiced sitting at home without calling the silence useless. He was learning that a life does not need constant demand in order to have meaning. Near the end of the day, the inner house may still be bright. The kitchen of responsibility, the hallway of memory, the bedroom of fear, the guest room where other people's opinions have been staying without paying rent. You do not need to run through the house angrily, tearing out wires. Walk slowly. Ask which room is actually being used now. Perhaps someone you love is sitting across from you. Perhaps the body needs sleep. Perhaps a bill must be paid. Perhaps a difficult call must be made. Light that room. Attend to what is here. Then let the others wait in darkness. Darkness is not neglect. Sometimes darkness is rest. The temple novice feared that an unlit room would become unsafe. But the teacher understood that a lamp exists to serve presence. It does not need to burn in every possible future. Neither do you. You are not required to remain mentally awake in every room of your life. You are allowed to leave work at work. You are allowed to stop rehearsing the conversation. You are allowed to let another adult carry their own disappointment. You are allowed to grieve without making grief productive. You are allowed to become quiet before you know what the quiet is for. The person who changes their life is not the person who finds a miracle. It is the person who wakes up and no longer lives in the old way. Perhaps you are still sitting on the edge of the bed. One sock on. One sock in your hand. The email remains unread. The bill still exists. Someone may still need you. You may not feel ready for the day, but readiness is not required for the next gentle action. Put on the other sock. Drink water. Open the curtain. Choose one necessary task. Let one unnecessary light remain off. Tonight, when the house grows quiet, notice how many rooms the mind tries to enter. Do not chase it. Return to the one room where your body is. The chair, the bed, the breath, the sound of rain becoming softer against the window, a cup of tea cooling beside a silent phone. You may still be tired, but tiredness is no longer an accusation. It is information. It is the body asking for a different way of living. Peace is practiced in ordinary moments. Awareness can change the direction of a life. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is releasing what the heart can no longer carry. If this reflection brought you a moment of peace, please subscribe to Still Mind Temple and share it with someone who may need a quiet place to rest today.